Thanks for tuning into the Texas Scratch King channel. In this video you will hear about Casertano's grand champion Troy. Let us begin. It was the July of 1996 when champion Azra was in heat and Zanetti wanted to breed her to Yankees champion Yankee Register of Merit. He called Bobin and they agreed about it. When Azra was on her 11th day of heat and ready for the breeding, Zanetti called Bobin to say he would start that morning to meet him in Hungary. Unfortunately, Bobin had some problems with his passport and the deal was off. The next day Zanetti called brothers who had Garner's Tom on their yard at the Tome. Tom was a son of Garner's Frisco Register of Merit and Glasgow's Valerie. The breeding was done the same day and repeated days after. 2 months later, Azra whelped a big litter of 8 pups. Unfortunately of them died, but he still had Troy, Ludi, Frida and Hydra. Most of the pups were colored like Azra, black and white except for Hydra. A red and white and Troy. A red dog that looked more like a Frisco type of dog. He was calmer than the others. And also a late starter. Troy's schooling began when he was 16 months old and he showed to be a very intelligent dog, like he already knew what to do. He liked to work on the face the most or the head, but as soon as he had the chance he would attack the front or back end as well. He had an average mouth. His style was similar to his mother's. When he was 22 months old, Troy was tested against a very hard opponent who ate up his whole face and gave him a lot of trouble. Troy never showed any bad signs. He changed his style and adapted to his opponent, showing intelligence again. After 45 minutes they both scratched fast and Troy passed his game test. Troy was a good dog. But Zanetti had a better dog from that litter that took all of his attention. It was Ludi. One of the best Z ever saw. He had it all. Everything except Z's patience for him to be old enough to be shown to the world. Ludi was only 12 months when he was matched for his first time. Zanetti took him as a substitute for one of his other dogs contracted for that match that had fallen ill. Ludi kicked the ass of Hazard Kennel's bully for 40 minutes, but then he ran out of air and power and was picked up at 55 minutes. When Ludi was 15 months old he won a contracted match against G&B Kennel's Tiger in 24 minutes. Ludi then went on to win another short one before he met Perez Mungos for his fourth. It was a really strange contest. Ludi dominated for 1 hour and 20 minutes. But then without any reason he fell into deep shock and was picked up at 1 hour and 48 minutes. Ludi was only 25 months old at the time. Maybe if Zanetti would have waited for him long enough, he would have been one of best. But let's return to Troy's story. Since Zanetti was taken away by Ludi he didn't really cared much about Troy. So when he was 2 years old, a guy from Italy called to buy him. He offered a good price and Troy went to Madonna, his new owner. Madonna won 2 matches with Troy. First they won at 47.5 pounds over Mariano's Ministro Jr., who was a son of the 3-time winner Ministro. Troy won in 1 hour and 22 minutes when Ministro Jr. quit. For his second he went in at 48.5 pounds against a son of Grand Champion Mayday Register of Merit called Russ's Red. Red didn't make his daddy proud that day as he quit in 40 minutes. After the show Madonna had some private problems and Troy was sold to Casertano Kennels. His championship match was agreed on at 47.5 pounds against another dog sent there by Zanetti. It was Zinco Jr., a direct son of the 4-time winner Yankees champion Zink. Both dogs were 2-time winners. Zinco Jr. was owned by AGD Kennels and he was a real game one but not good enough to beat Troy. After his third deep game scratch Zinco was picked up at 1 hour and 12 minutes. Making Troy an official champion. There was one dog close to the weight of champion Troy in South Italy. Most of the people claimed that he would silence Troy in short order. That dog was Frisco Jr. Brought there by Vinny Romeo. He was a son of Frisco Register of Merit and BMW's Panterita. Frisco Jr. had a big reputation. He was said to have silenced a few dogs in only few minutes and that he had the hardest mouth they ever witnessed. Troy had to lose 4 pounds to meet Frisco Jr. But he took the challenge for a huge bet and so the big money contract was set at 44 pounds. LG conditioned and handled Frisco Jr. for that match. Frisco showed that his good reputation was not just a gossip. He demolished the front and back end of Troy very quick. Troy had a lot of trouble keeping that beast off of him. Finally, after a hard 30 minutes Frisco Jr. was slowing down and Troy started to control and later to dominate the match. After 1 hour Troy started to finish his opponent. At 1 hour and 25 minutes Frisco Jr. was picked up and he made a game courtesy scratch. Champion Troy won all the glory in this fight by beating a truly hard opponent. Nobody ever thought of giving him a chance to do that. After a long recovery and healing, the now 4-time winner champion Troy was ready to be matched again. He was over 4 years old at the time. The challenge for his fifth arrived from G. Pompista, who had a dog imported from Serbia who was reputed to have several off-the-chain wins there, and the match was set. Arctic arrived 2.2 pounds over the agreed weight and dominated Troy for the first 15 minutes, dragging him all over. Troy waited for his chance, and after Arctic lost some wind and slowed down, Troy started to finish him in the back end. The first out of hold was at the 50-minute mark. Arctic had enough and won't scratch back. Troy scratched like a bullet for his Grand Championship title. Grand Champion Troy won his Grand Champion title in 2000, and he was the first official Grand Champion of Italy. He was matched from 44 pounds till 50.7 pounds, and he never ducked any of the opponents in his way. Many people thought they had a dog that would beat him. But the only thing they really did was losing their money. Thanks again for listening to the Texas Scratch King channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share the video. Until the next time, my friends. As we always say, never submit to life and keep scratching every time.